How's it going? Thad Brown here with you on the Endgame. It is Thursday, May the 7th, heading into Mother's Day weekend. Hope you've got something nice planned for the mom in your life, whether it be a party, a gathering, a gift, or just leave her the hell alone. She's probably fine with that too. Either way, as long as she's cool with it, then you'll be cool with it. Please appreciate all the moms in your lives. They do an elite job, the most important job probably that there is. My job, second best to moms, but we got stuff to talk about today. Sabres take game one over Montreal. A lot to discuss from that. Zach Benson's a hero. We'll explain why. And then OTAs begin in the NFL. Rookie camp this week for the Bills. We will explain exactly how you should be treating rookie camp this weekend. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. We're also on YouTube Live here occasionally, sometimes. So you can check us out there. Today, we're going to begin with the Sabres, as we should. 4-2 win over Montreal last night. They looked pretty darn good. For a team that had struggled at home for the first round, the first series against Boston, this start against the Canadiens was exactly, I think, what the doctor ordered. Couple goals early, a little bit fortunate, sure. Obviously, a defenseman falls down for the Canadiens. That leads to the 3-on-1, which is a tap in for Josh Doan. And then the power play goal, and we'll get into the power play in a minute here too, that Ryan McLeod scored, a little bit of a good break with some puck luck. But regardless, Sabres take an early lead. They take control of the game, and they never really gave it up. Now, Montreal had long stretches where they seemed like the better team. They were certainly in the game start to finish. But this was the Sabres game to lose, and they never gave it away. They did exactly what you're supposed to do when you're the better team in the playoffs. Now, I don't know if they are, for sure, the better team in this series, but after one game, it certainly feels that way. And I think the style the Canadiens like to play, or seem to like to play, is going to suit Buffalo just fine. Canadiens played wide open, freewheeling, up and down the ice. Sabres can certainly roll with that. They got all kinds of talent, all kinds of lines that are more than happy to go up and down, end to end, chance to chance, and play and win that way. And I think it went a long way towards making the Sabres seem and certainly play more comfortable in that home game than they did in any of the first three against Boston. And that, to me, was one of the big questions going into this series. Could the Sabres play as well at home as they played on the road against Boston and as they played pretty much anywhere on planet Earth from January through the middle of April? And yesterday, the answer to that was a resounding yes. And if the Sabres are going to be at home what they look like on the road against Boston, this is going to be the team that we talked about for weeks as being one of the toughest outs in the NHL, if not maybe the toughest. So that game was, in terms of playing at home and responding to the energy, we've said on this show a few times that you wonder, with all the excitement, all the enthusiasm, all the desire from Sabres fans to finally see the playoffs. I was talking to someone else today about how Sabres expectations, or Sabres fans' expectations, are not the same as Bills fans' expectations, even if both teams, at least right this second, are the same level of contender. You would not be surprised if the Sabres or the Bills win a championship this year, even if there still seems to be some hurdles in the way of both teams, mainly that they haven't done it anytime recently. They haven't succeeded in that spot. The Bills because they failed year after year, the Sabres because they've never gotten there. But because of that, I think it makes how the fans treat both teams differently. Bills fans are demanding a championship. You fall short of the Super Bowl and you're a failure. C. McDermott, comma, if you're not sure about that, C. McDermott, comma, Sean. Sabres fans are more just excited. Everything is new and fun. It's like going to a carnival. There's games everywhere, lights, everything sparkly, rides, cotton candy. It's just an avalanche of fun stuff that you want to be a part of. And if the Sabres lost their next 4 games, this would still be considered a successful season, wildly successful. And people will be all ready to sign up for another ride next year. Whereas the Bills this year, even with a brand new coach, if they get to the AFC Championship and lose on a last-second field goal to Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, insert AFC power here, it's going to be a disaster, a failure. It's not good enough. But even if the expectations are different, the players who are involved in those games are still feeling a similar level of weight. It's a different type of weight for sure. But Sabres players do want to, as best they can, cash in on what's been an awesome season. You hear all the time in sports that every year is a different year. You can't count on the same groups of players to come together in the same way. Every professional athlete understands this. So the Sabres do want to make sure they take this as far as it can go, and there's pressure to do that, especially at home, where they know the fans are going to come in as revved up as possible. They know fans are going to show up expecting to see what, in many of their lifetimes, for anybody under the age of like 20, is the greatest hockey team they've ever rooted for. So there's pressure to answer to that. There's pressure to live up to that. And I think in the first round, the first few playoff games, there was some issue with the Sabres doing that. Boston's grindy defensive style didn't help either. But I do think the weight of being what Sabres fans want the Sabres to be mattered. And in this game against Montreal, Buffalo 100% lived up to it. And as Micah Hyde has said, and I think we all have heard it many times at this point, certainly from me, and I think it's a great axiom to believe in, confidence is a hell of a drug. The more the Sabres win and succeed at home, the more they are likely to win and succeed at home. And like I said, if they're going to play at home like they did on the road against Boston, they're going to be a real dangerous team. Speaking of building confidence, how about the Sabres scoring 2 power play goals in this game too, right? Now look, I don't think the power play looked 2 out of 3 good if you want to go in a shift-by-shift, minute-by-minute basis. In the first power play of the night, the Sabres couldn't even get the puck in the zone. And the second one, where they did score, they spent the first minute 20, minute 30 not being able to get the puck in the zone. And like I talked about earlier, the goal, a heck of a pass and a finish by McLeod, but the whole thing was set up by a shot that kind of just flung on net and bounced off skates and ended up in the right spot at the right time. So it wasn't exactly like the Sabres are dealing the puck around. Montreal's power play looked a whole lot better last night. They scored a goal on the power play too. Buffalo didn't seem to be in control of the power play for the 3 chances they got for most of it. They didn't seem comfortable entering the zone. They did better later on. Rasmus Dahlin did get that quick little breakaway on an entry play. And they did get a second goal, but it was pretty much Bo Byram doing Bo Byram things. And a whole different discussion. Not that it's not relevant to the power play. All that said, Buffalo scored twice with the man advantage after scoring 1 time in the previous 51 chances. 1 time the entire Boston series. So no matter how you or I or anybody thinks it looked, they put 2 check marks next to those 2 power play boxes. And that is going to matter too. The question in the locker room afterward was, from some of the media, can we stop asking you guys about the power play? And Ryan McLeod kind of laughed and said, well, if we're going to score twice, then keep asking about it. It's that kind of answer right now. I don't think the Sabres are going to sit there and tell you they've solved it. And Lindy Ruff was pretty adamant after the game about, maybe not necessarily the power play, but the game in general, that the Sabres still have things that they need to improve on. And I think he's right. And the power play, whether the Bills or the Sabres admitted it or not, I think goes on the list of things that need to be improved. But when you can get 2, when you're not even doing it that well, again, that speaks to confidence, belief, and success going forward. So you think about 2 big negatives from the round 1 series that the Sabres still won. Playing at home and the power play, and both of those were giant positives in game 1 against Montreal. Not a negative, but kind of in the same vein, I don't think goaltending is the A1 strength of the Sabres, but Alex Lyon was better than Jakub Dobas in game one. And that's going to go a long way towards winning the series too, because I think both these teams are very adequately deep when it comes to forwards and scoring and offense. Both teams, as we talked about, can get up and down the ice. And I think both teams are looking at their goaltending and thinking, I feel good, but I'm not totally sure. And Dobas is only in his second year in the league. And Lyon wasn't the guy the Sabres rolled out for game one. He was not their preferred goalie in this postseason and only got the job because UPL had a disastrous game two against Boston. So goaltending for either team, I think, might be the number one question in general, separate of current recent problems. In the Sabres case, like I said, the power play and playing at home. But in game one, Lyon was the better goalie, pretty clearly. I don't think he was spectacular, but he certainly was in control, managed things well, caught a little break on that. There was that one centering pass, I think, to Suzuki in the first period, where Lyon's going to his right and Suzuki bounced the puck off Lyon's left pad. So almost like the shooter hit the goalie as opposed to the goalie getting in the way of the shot. Either way, Dobas did not look comfortable. I know the Greenway goal was screened and was a heck of a shot, but I think that's one where you want your playoff goalie to make the stop there. And that was the first game in the postseason where Dobas had allowed more than 3 goals. Tampa had 7 shots at Montreal, couldn't score more than 3 once. 4 of those games went overtime, so they had more than 60 minutes 4 different times. Again, couldn't score more than 3 once. The Sabres got to more than 3 in a period and a half. It just speaks to where the Sabres are and how good that game was last night to open up this series. Going forward with this series now, and I think it's hard not to draw conclusions on a playoff series based on one game. There's a reason they play a best of 7. But watching those two teams and how they matched up and what they wanted to play, I think you have to believe that both teams went into this game thinking, okay, this is what we want to do. This is our best option. We're not going to hold back. It's not like the Canadiens threw out the plan B and said, well, we'll go with the good stuff in games 3, 4, and 5. If you assume that what both teams did is what they want to do, the Sabres just flat out did it better. Like I said, number one, the goaltending was better to begin with. If we play the rest of this series, and that's all I know, that Alex Lyon is going to be a better goalie than Jakub Dobas, Montreal's going to have a tough time beating the Sabres team. And that's probably true for most playoff series if the goaltending is better. But I think more to the point, like I said, the Sabres seem pretty dang comfortable playing up and down and back and forth on the ice, much more comfortable than they did against Boston in round 1. And it seems like Montreal is pretty comfortable playing that way too, because even though Buffalo won the game 4-2, was in total control, the Canadiens had lots of chances. Both teams hit multiple posts. So this is a series, this is a game that could have easily gone the other way. Buffalo was the better team. Buffalo deserved to win. Buffalo deserved to win by 2 goals. They were significantly better. It doesn't mean that Montreal was that far out of the series. And when we move forward in this series, I think the Canadiens will probably continue to play the way they play, and they'll look at that game and think, man, if we got a couple breaks, we get our goalie to make a couple more saves, we'll be in this. So I think it's a reasonable plan of attack for the Canadiens. But if they stay with this style, after what I saw in game 1, I find it really hard to believe that Buffalo would lose 4 of 6 if they're going to play 6 more games at that pace in that style. Because the Sabres looked so comfortable. They looked very dangerous. Again, they scored 4, and it could have easily been 7 or 8. They hit posts as well. So if the Canadiens don't change up what they're doing, to me, this is a series where the Sabres are a significant favorite. Doesn't mean that Montreal's not going to win some games. I still think they will. I said before the series, I would be surprised if it went less than 6. And I still feel that way after last night. Maybe not as strongly. I feel more strongly about the Sabres winning the series than the series going at least 6 after what I saw last night. And I think some of that might be recency bias. But that game favored what Buffalo wants to do, who they want to be, and what they're comfortable doing. And if they are going to continue to get the better goaltending, sure, some nights Montreal is going to get the breaks. Some nights the pucks that bounced off the post are going to go in. You're not going to keep Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki down for 7 straight games, but can you keep them down for 4 of 7? I think so. And right now, it's just got to be 3 of 6. So Buffalo's just got to be a 50-50 team to advance. And I don't think, after what we saw in game 1, that the Sabres lose more than 3 games of the next 6 playing in that style, because they looked so good in it. So does Montreal now change? Do they throw a curveball? Do they do something different? Do they have a plan B? That to me might be the key to how the rest of this series goes. But if you're a Sabres fan, I think you feel very confident, or should feel really confident coming out of game 1, based on how the Sabres responded at home, on the power play, and to the way that Montreal seems to want to play. And everybody in Buffalo, we heard from Lindy Ruff and a number of players that this is more the Canadian style. They're faster, a little more talented than Boston. The Sabres are the bigger team in this series. Lindy Ruff talked about that on Wednesday, that bigger size doesn't matter to me. I care about want to. I care about compete. But this is not a team in Montreal that's going to intimidate Buffalo physically. They're going to have to win this series with speed and talent. And the problem is the Sabres are just dripping with speed and talent. It's going to make it really hard for Montreal, I think, to come back. Still just 1 game. And look, in every playoff series, baseball, basketball, hockey, things can change. Injuries happen. You get surprise results. Sixers, Celtics, we talked about that on Monday. That was not a series that anybody thought through any of the 4 games Boston was going to lose, and they did. And hockey is certainly a sport where you can get much more random results, much more surprising outcomes than you can in a sport of basketball. So not over, but I think, again, if you're the Sabres, you feel really, really good about where you're at. And that especially goes for Zach Benson, who continues to be amazing in the playoffs. 2 more assists in game 1 last night. He's become a bit of a folk hero in Buffalo lately. A guy who he's not there. Hold on. Where'd he go? A guy who has succeeded quite a bit and overcome some size issues. And again, as Lindy Ruff talked about on Wednesday, size is not something that he is going to worry about all that much. And you shouldn't have to worry about it with Benson hardly at all either. And I think the thing with Benson is that, and the thing I want to talk about here is how much of a folk hero he has become with the Sabres. He's a guy who, as he talked about the other day, can't really go even into the Wegmans and buy groceries without someone coming up to him and wanting a picture or something else to go and connect with him about, autographs, whatever. Rasmus Dahlin talked about him today, and he was saying the usual things about how he's a great teammate. You love to have him on your side. And he said that apparently Benson lived with him, Dahlin said, when Benson first joined the Sabres. And he did some, quote, weird stuff. And immediately the media were like, well, what weird stuff was that, Rasmus? Can you give us some details? And Dahlin goes, I shouldn't have said that. But I think Benson's weirdness is what everybody loves about him. Maybe not number 1, but it's certainly a part of it. He's a guy that on any team, you need to keep the wheels spinning. You need a guy like Benson to make it fun, to make it interesting, to make it different. And some teams maybe need more than one of those guys, but you got to have at least one. You got to have one guy that when you show up to work every day just has such a unique worldview that it keeps it fun, it keeps it interesting. And Benson seems to be that guy for the Sabres. Now, look, you can't just have just that. You got to be able to play too. And I think that's the other main part of this. Benson's been excellent in this playoffs. And with Tage Thompson not scoring, with the power play, at least the number 1 line, because again, even last night, those 2 goals from the power play are both from the second power play group. When the Tages and the Tucks and the Krebs aren't necessarily producing, and this has just been a very, very recent phenomenon. They both, that top line has been very productive for the duration of the playoffs. But lately, it's been the secondary guys, the Bensons, the Doans, who have been Bo Byram, the guys who have been really fueling the offense lately in Sabres wins. And Benson being able to do that, even though he's listed at 5'10", And 5'10" ain't the truth. He's shorter than that. But he's the size of a normal person. This isn't Logan Stanley, who's 6'14", or Tage Thompson, who's giant and ridiculously skilled. Zach Benson looks like all of us. A more fit, athletic, in shape, all of us, but he's the size of an everyman. And that is one of the other reasons why I think people are inspired to like him so much. You could be Zach Benson. You can't be Tage Thompson. You can't be Logan Stanley. You can't be LeBron James. You can't be Josh Allen. You might be Zach Benson. If you had the hands and the feet and the skating ability, you're Zach Benson's size. You could be that guy. So that endears him to fans easily. And then the other part, too, that people, especially in Buffalo, love, but I think there are a lot of cities that would embrace this. He's that annoying guy. He's the gnat. He's the guy that gets into everybody else's head, that bothers an opponent to the point, Charlie McAvoy, hello, to the point of getting out of their minds. AJ Pierzynski, former Major League Baseball catcher, was the guy I always think of for this phenomena. A guy that you love to have on your team and you despise him if he's on the other team. And I think being the short guy is a part of why that works so well too. How can this little guy be bothering us so much? He's so small. He's not nearly as big as all of our much more talented, stronger, larger players are. So all of that has endeared Benson in Buffalo. And look, the other part of this too is the Sabres are so good and so fun and people are so excited about them that everybody is endearing to Sabres fans right now, but Benson especially. He's one of us. He's our size. We could be him. He's a little weird. He's a little different. He's not the polished. He's not Michael Jordan walking into a press conference or Derek Jeter who says the same thing over and over. He's not a machine. He's a real person that you can connect with. He's a little off, does things a little differently, but he's fun. He's energy. He's maybe not the straw that stirs the drink, but he is something that gets the juices going. And I can certainly understand why people are quickly locking on to Zach Benson as one of their favorite Sabres. And he's just flat out playing well. He's dangerous. When he has the puck on his stick, you're taking note right now. And as much as the Sabres are really good top to bottom, I don't think there's a ton of guys on the team that you would say that about. Tage Thompson for sure, Dahlin for sure. McLeod, just from a skating point of view, he's so fast. Benson right now, when the puck gets to him, you expect something to happen. And he can finish as easily as he creates. So you can, again, when you got all the everyman things going, the gnat qualities, when you've got the ability to be someone in a locker room that can make it fun, that can keep it fresh, you got to be able to play too. And Benson is playing as well as anybody on this team over the last week and a half, despite his less than imposing size. Game 2 for the Sabres on Friday. I'm next with you on Monday, so that'll be after Game 3. So I think we'll be talking about a 2-1 Buffalo series. I think, again, Montreal keeps this close and respectable. I think it gets to 6. So I think when we're back together on Monday, this will be a 2-1 Montreal series. All right, I'm actually going to take a break here, a little early, but got a couple of things I want to hit on after the break. Longer topics that I want to take some more time with. We'll talk about Bills, rookie camp, and OTAs, which are going to begin on Friday. And again, for the next month or so, it is off-season work for the Bills. Is that important? How important should it be? We'll talk about that. Plus, the Kentucky Derby winner will not show up at the Preakness, and horse racing is having a collective meltdown. Should they? All that and more after a break. My name is Thad Brown. This is the Endgame. You're watching Rochester First with the cool kids, the ones who all like Zach Benson and think he's awesome. They call it Rock One. We're back. Back with you on the Endgame. I'm Thad Brown. It is Thursday, the 7th of May. Want to remind you once again tonight at 8:30, we've got another edition of BKL Nightly. It'll be me and Rachel Albert and Caleb Carr. We'll do the second half of our Bills versus Patriots discussion. We're going position by position, debating which team has the better group all the way through offense and defense. We did the offensive guys on Monday. Tonight will be defense, special teams, coaching, and the final score to determine if the Bills have caught up to the Patriots. I know some people didn't like the terminology of the Bills needing to catch up, and it felt wrong because I know the Patriots won the division, but obviously the schedule was a big part of it. Still, last year, Buffalo was the second best team, so have they closed the gap? We'll answer that question tonight at 8:30 right here on Rochester First. Speaking of the Bills, when it comes to their future, they are going to be conducting rookie minicamp over the weekend. And rookie camp is not exactly priority football stuff. I think for the most part, you're taking the new guys who you just drafted, allowing them to get their feet wet, understand where the locker room is, where the weight room is, where the bathrooms are, where the cafeteria is. You're also giving a number of players a tryout. So you have your drafted players, you have your undrafted free agents who are priority signings, guys who were close to being drafted, probably have a better chance to make the team than others, but didn't get drafted. And then you've got a number of guys who you're just giving a tryout to. You want to give them a look, put them on the field with other NFL caliber players, and see how it goes. Coming out of this weekend, we're not going to learn much about what Skylar Bell is going to look like week 5, what TJ Parker is going to look like against NFL offensive linemen, or whether or not Davison Igbinosun is a better corner than Max Hairston is. So don't look at rookie minicamp and expect significant results or information about the regular season. And this is something I want to talk about right now. All the practices that NFL teams are going to do from now until the middle of June are wildly overhyped. And I understand that there are a number of publications out there who have people employed whose job it is to cover the local NFL team 12 months out of the year. And for the next 5 to 6 weeks, the only thing, for the most part, those NFL teams will be doing is their off-season team activities and then minicamp for 3 days. In some cases, 2, because a lot of times coaches will give teams the last day off of minicamp. Let's remember what these sessions are about, okay? This is not about major preparation for the football season. This is not about installing game plans. This is not about getting ready for that big New England game, which is going to happen. I guarantee you one of them is going to happen week 18. I shouldn't say guarantee. I'm pretty sure about that. That's my gut feel. The other one will happen sometime during the season. The point is, this is not priority football work. OTAs are an opportunity for teams to learn about how new guys fit together, to get some experience for the new guy, the rookies, allow guys who have never been in the NFL a chance to get their feet wet there a little bit, and see what this team can be. Try some things out. This is not a situation, again, where teams are going to gain a lot of information that's going to be useful for week 7. This is a learning period. But it's going to get covered like it's 80, 90% of training camp, to where it's vital, to where it's important stuff that will have impacts on the regular season and beyond. There's no doubt that there are foundations being laid here in some ways. But this is not nearly what training camp is. Training camp is when the offense is getting installed. Training camp is when jobs are getting sorted. May and June is for trying things out. And keep in mind, too, May and June does not ever involve any full padded practices. So that means that for the most part, what the offensive line and defensive lines do is irrelevant. You don't get a real look at those parts of the team without players in full pads. It's not quite silly season, but it's close in a lot of ways. So what I want people to understand is that this is not something that fans need to worry about all that much. In fact, I think we should all take the OTA pledge. We should all understand exactly what we're getting into when it comes to the next 5 or 6 weeks of NFL news. So if you'd like, raise your right hand, okay? Repeat after me. I will not be concerned with any NFL practice that happens in May or June. I will not consider any plays from those practices relevant or indicative of regular season results. I will not seek out snap-by-snap recaps of those practices. I will not draw conclusions or react to conclusions drawn from social media highlights of, and insert the highest drafted skill player for your favorite team here. I will only be interested in injuries that happen in practice or updates to previously injured players. I will also be interested in who does or does not attend, but only when it is related to a contractual issue. You may put your hand down. Amen. And now, I just gave you like a dozen hours of the spring back, because that is all that you should be worried about when it comes to OTAs and minicamp. What happens on the field in practices, catches made, catches not made, interceptions, all that stuff is not relevant. Guys are trying things out. I wouldn't say they're messing around, but they're certainly experimenting. This is not priority football work. It's fun to see your favorite team with some new players running around in a field. It will be cool to see Josh Allen throw balls to DJ Moore. It's cool, but it doesn't have anything to do with how Josh Allen and or DJ Moore are going to look like in the regular season. Guys are just feeling things out. And for players who do not show, as long as someone's not holding out for a contract, it really doesn't matter. It's all voluntary. And in some ways, it's an opportunity for those of us who have to fill content to create said content. But for those of you out there watching the next few weeks of practices, whether it be for the Bills or anybody else, it is just not that important. And do not worry if Skylar Bell drops a pass in practice. Do not get too excited if Jalen Kilgore comes up with some interception of Josh Allen. These are not things that are that important until we get to training camp. Training camp matters. Training camp is when things are being installed, jobs are being decided, not in May and June. You know what does happen in May and June? The Triple Crown gets run. And we had a heck of a race in the Kentucky Derby with Golden Tempo coming from all the way in last place to win that race. First ever female trainer to have a Kentucky Derby winner. But the big news today, or at least this week, is that Golden Tempo is not going to run the Preakness. Second year in a row where a Kentucky Derby winner is not going to go after the second leg of the Triple Crown. And there are some people, when it comes to the world of horse racing, that are apoplectic about Golden Tempo not giving the Triple Crown a fair shake. Now, to understand why this happens, number one, the races are significantly different. We talked about this on Monday. The Kentucky Derby is a significantly longer race than the Preakness is, which is why our horse like Golden Tempo can be in last place halfway through and still win, because there's time enough in the race to come back. Not as true for the Preakness. The Preakness tends to be more of a speed race, that if you have a horse that can get out front early, they have a better chance to finish. So it probably doesn't suit. If Golden Tempo's game is to be in last place 2/3 of the way through a race, it's going to be hard to win the Preakness. So that's the X and O horse racing reason why Golden Tempo may not be racing in the Preakness next weekend. The real, more likely, more practical reason is that a Kentucky Derby winner is going to make a boatload of cash as a stud horse, siring the next hopefuls for people who want to own Kentucky Derby future champions. And if Golden Tempo loses in the Preakness, that only will decrease the amount of money the horse has or the horse can earn for that going forward. So not running the Preakness is very likely just simply a financial decision. Now, the trainers for Golden Tempo announced it as a health of the horse concern as well. That was part of the reason why they don't want to roll in the Preakness. And that may be true. I'm not sitting next to Golden Tempo right now, and certainly not a horse trainer and or veterinarian, so I wouldn't know if the horse is feeling good or not. But the obvious, the likely, the cynical explanation to this is that the owners of Golden Tempo really have nothing to gain now by winning the Preakness or even the Belmont. So why bother roll the horse out there? Golden Tempo is already a Kentucky Derby champion. You don't get better than that. I mean, obviously the Triple Crown would be better, but there's only been 2 horses that have won a Triple Crown since the 70s. So why mess with that? It's like you won a lottery for $5 million, and if you take 2 more swings, you might turn it into 10, and 10 is better than 5, but 5 is pretty damn good, so I'm going to sit on 5. Can't blame the owners for making that decision. Here's the argument against, and I don't agree with it, but I think it's fair to lay it out. All horse racing has right now is the Triple Crown. It is the only thing, and maybe the funny hats at the Kentucky Derby, the only thing keeping this sport relevant. So if you are going to be part of this sport that has helped make you successful, has helped give you this opportunity to have a horse that's going to have stud fees, that's going to make you as rich as you can imagine, there probably should be some respect paid to keeping the sport healthy. The only reason that the owners of Golden Tempo have the chance to make so much money from this horse is because horse racing is healthy enough and the Kentucky Derby is popular enough to put you in this position. So yeah, I think there's a reasonable argument that allowing the horse a chance to go after the Triple Crown, to keep the Preakness relevant and interesting, and at the, as close as you can, the forefront of the sports discussion, I think is a worthy goal for any owner of a horse who has won the Kentucky Derby. But I don't think it's that worthy. I mean, let's be fair. Even if the health of the sport is important and should matter, what is Golden Tempo racing the Preakness going to do? It's going to make the Preakness a little more interesting. I mean, for the most part, the only time anyone pays attention to any of these horse races is to A, bet on them, B, place a wager on them, C, try and win money from them, and D, again, look at the funny hats at the Kentucky Derby. Just because Golden Tempo shows up at the Preakness, you're not changing any of those. Maybe a little. It is a little more relevant. And obviously, if Golden Tempo were to win the Preakness, well, then the Belmont does get a significant bump. But the horse has to still come in first in a race that it's probably not built for. So I can't sit here and blame the owners of Golden Tempo for packing up their winnings and going home. They've got a big boatload of cash. Why give any of that back? They worked hard. They trained the horse. They fed the horse, took care of the horse, picked the right trainer, picked the right jockey. They did their job. I think the owners of Golden Tempo have every right to say, nah, we're good. We've gone far enough. We're cool. And if horse racing is the victim as a sport, then so be it. Because horse racing, frankly, is just about dead as it is. Just because horse racing and boxing and even baseball to a lesser degree, although baseball is having a nice renaissance thanks to some incredible rule changes, just because those sports were popular 30, 40, 50 years ago doesn't mean they have to be popular now. I'm sure the people who are a part of that sport would like it to be, but some things don't last, as all of us are finding out. I mean, those of us in the media are dealing with that idea right now. The way the media looks now is way different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know, but that's how it is. And that's kind of how it goes for horse racing right now. So I'm not going to look at the owners of Golden Tempo and shake my fist at them about how you need to run your horse at the Preakness for the sake of the sport. They won. They did their job. They get to pick how much of the spoils they get to have now. And I'm totally cool with that. And is it unfortunate? Would I like to see a horse run in the Preakness? Sure. Do I care that much? No. It is not going to be priority 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 out of my day. Not with the Sabres in the playoffs, not with my Sixers in the NBA playoffs, not with the Bills doing OTAs, as I pointed out, though, it ain't that important. Regardless, whether Golden Temple runs in the Preakness or not is relevant to such a small portion of this country that I can't have an issue, turn my nose up at the owners of Golden Temple not putting that horse in the Preakness. I think they have a right to decide that, and that's their choice. That's fine with me. Congrats to them. You guys won. You get to make the call. Enjoy. And if horse racing is the victim, horse racing, like I said, already too many problems to fix right now. Too many problems, certainly, to put on the owners of whoever wins the Kentucky Derby every year to fix. Because that's really what we're talking about. There's only one horse every year that's relevant. It's whoever wins the Kentucky Derby. And forcing that horse to be the flag bearer for the sport, to prop up the sport that failed for a number of reasons on its own and things that were exterior, is not a reasonable ask. Those owners already did their job. They succeeded. They won. They get to do what they want after this, and I'm fine with that. All right, next topic. You know what I'm not fine with is NCAA tournament expansion. Today we found out that the 76-team NCAA basketball tournament, that's now an official thing. That's for real. That's happening. And the 24-team NCAA football tournament might not be far behind. Let's talk about the basketball one first. I think it's clearly too much of a good thing. Look, when we get to the NCAA tournament, and I love that thing as much as anybody, the best part of that tournament, for a lot of people, is Thursday and Friday. Games start at noon. They have the highest of importance. Again, there's only a few playoff tournaments out there that are one and done. It's pretty much the NFL and NCAA basketball and football. And when you get an entire day of every team playing for their season, every possession mattering, every finish being figurative, sports figurative, life and death, that's super fun. That's an awesome experience. And it does last into Saturday and Sunday too, because you get 16 games Thursday and Friday, and then you get 8 more Saturday and Sunday. It's really 4 days of just constant, super high level sports drama. So you might think that, well, you know, if we're going to expand to 76 teams, we're going to get 2 more of those days on Tuesday and Wednesday now, right? Isn't that cool? I don't know. I really think that there is a point where you can have too much of a good thing to where it can get less interesting, especially when we're talking about taking the teams that were barely tournament eligible, tournament quality to begin with. I mean, this year we talked about an Auburn team that most people didn't feel like was worthy of a tournament berth as someone who's being on the bubble. With 76 teams, that team is getting in. So while it is fun to see teams have to play for their season over and over and over, it does at some point get old. And if you're going to start that week on Tuesday, which really, if you're going to go 72 teams or 76 teams, we're going to get 6 games, do or die on Tuesday, 6 games, do or die on Wednesday, 16 on Thursday, 16 on Friday, 8 on Saturday, 8 on Sunday. That doesn't sound fun anymore. It sounds exhausting. And the reasons behind it, I think we mostly understand what they are. This is about coaches who want to be able to say, hey, our team got in the tournament. Well, if you have more of those teams, then you have more of those coaches. So it benefits the coaches, it benefits the schools. It's more money because it's more games. So it's more TV contracts, it's more fans, it's more hot dogs, it's more parking. So from the NCAA point of view, it's almost a no-lose situation because everybody's getting more. More money, more revenue, more success. So there's no downside from that point of view. Now, at some point, there will be a downside. There is a number of tournament teams out there where if they expand this tournament, I would imagine it would no longer be, it would decrease in popularity. It's probably not 76. It might not even be 176. But there's a number out there where this tournament would be too big and people would stop watching as much. Maybe it is 76. We'll find out. But either way, I don't think this is the way that anybody, not even the most ardent college basketball fan, wants to go about it. Maybe I'll change my mind when we get to Tournament Tuesday next year, which is what it's going to be now. And there's 6 games, even if they're involving the last, what would it be, 12? You'd probably get like 6 automatic qualifiers from small conferences and 6 at-large teams who are playing 6 games that day. Maybe it'll be fun. I mean, the other part of it too is, and I'm assuming it'll go this way, that you're going to have more teams who win conferences to where that is their season to just show up in the NCAA tournament, not really getting the chance because they're playing Tuesday and Wednesday and not Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday are still going to be the days. You're not going to look at Tuesday and Wednesday, maybe not for a generation, before you look at that as being in the tournament. So you're still robbing from more teams whose only goal it is during the season to just make it into that tournament. You're taking that away. And sure, you want to argue, well, now some of those teams get to win a game in, finger quotes, the tournament. Ain't the same thing. You're at least forcing, well, I guess you are going to put the same number of teams in the tournament. Some of them got to win another game to get there. But I think you will probably decrease a little bit the interest in the conference tournaments the week before, understanding that more of those now aren't really a berth in the NCAA tournament. They're just a berth into the play-in into the NCAA tournament. Either way, I don't think there's a lot of college basketball fans or sports fans in general who think this is a good idea, even if we all love the tournament, we all love all the games everywhere, and now there's going to be more games that are going to be do or die drama and all that stuff. And then with football, now look, when football was a 2 and a 4 team tournament, I was 100% on board with expanding. 8 or 12 sounded like a great idea to me. And I've enjoyed the 12-team tournaments. And for any criticism that it has got, keep in mind that we had a 10 seed that was in the championship this year, and we had low seeds in the championship the year before. So both years of this 12-team tournament, having more than 4 teams in the field has made a difference on who gets to the championship. That said, I don't see where 24 is an improvement. Now, this is not official. College football has not officially gone to 24 teams. This was just a recommendation by college football coaches. And again, like we said with basketball, coaches are 100% going to be for this because now more of them get to go to the tournament, get to make the playoff. So this is a biased recommendation to go to 24 teams. That said, the Big Ten and the SEC, which are almost pretty much the only power brokers in college football right now, are debating between a 24-team field, and the SEC, I think, is the one that would prefer a 16-team field. So in both cases, the major conferences want more than 12 anyway. I think 12 is a nice number. 12 is a good bar or line to draw between the teams that are good enough to be in a playoff and the teams who are not good enough. And you still get 4 teams who can earn a bye. So there's still motivation up and down the field. Now, if you go 24, couple things about this, because the more I looked into it, the less upset I was about the idea of a 24-team tournament. Number one, the FCS does a 24-team tournament right now. And there are less programs at FCS than there are at FBS, which is the top level of college football. I have not heard anybody really complain all that loudly about 24 teams making the FCS tournament. So with a few more teams, I guess it probably isn't that unreasonable to have 24 at the top level of football. I also thought of the idea that if there's going to be more playoff games, and these playoff games are just replacing the irrelevant bowl games, I'm probably cool with that. Because I don't enjoy at all or have any interest in postseason games that are not in the playoff. The insert sponsor name here bowl is no longer of any interest to me, even if my team is playing in the game. And I know for some teams it's important, like Syracuse, for example, a team that's on the borderline to even be considered for postseason play. That can be a thing that's relevant. Some of these League of 5 teams, your North Texas, Boise State type schools, I get that can be something that's enough of a carrot to be of interest. And in every other part of the country but the one I live in, the Northeast, every single college football game is the most important thing of that particular weekend. So for other parts of the world, those bowl games are still pretty cool. But I don't find them relevant enough to worry about, or I'll put it this way, If the new expanded college football playoff is going to replace those bowl games, then sign me up, because I need less of those games in my life, and I will take more actual playoff games, even if some of them are going to involve the 17th through 24th best team in the country. And the number one complaint about expanding college football, and this goes back to whether it was 2 to 4 or 4 to 12 or now 12 to 24, is that, well, you're going to demean the regular season. It won't mean as much. And for some teams, it won't. And I think the unfortunate part is the teams that won't mean as much are the ones at the very top. So as you get to November and Thanksgiving, teams 1 through 10 in the country can start to kind of throttle down on the regular season. Yeah, there'll still be buys at stake, but it's not nearly the same as getting into a postseason. Now, to be fair, you're not removing the number of teams who care, because even those teams that might throttle down still do have buys and seeding things to play for. Not as important, but there are things there. You're just taking the window of teams that care and maybe moving it from right now, the 7th best to the 20th best. You're sliding it down to, I don't know, the 17th best to the 40th best. That's now the window of teams that feel like they're playing for their season. We have to either make a playoff spot or hold on to a playoff spot. It's still the same thing. It's still the same number of teams who care. It's just a different group. So all those things combined make me a little less negative on the idea of a 24-team NFL or NCAA playoff field on the football side. Because you're not really, in terms of the number of relevant games, the number of teams who care, it's still similar. It's just a different group of teams. And you might be able to replace some bowl games that are irrelevant, and the thing has worked at a lower level with less teams. So it's not like if you looked at 24 teams and thought to yourself, man, that doesn't seem like I'm getting a good number. You know, like in the NCAA or in the NBA and hockey, you get almost half the league or exactly half the league who goes to the postseason. In the NBA, if you count the play-in, it's 2/3 of the league who gets to the postseason. And you think that's not the right percentage. You want the postseason to be exclusive. You want it to be something that you have to chase. Well, in college football, if you go by sheer numbers, 24 of 130 or so programs is less than 20% of college football who gets into the postseason. That's a pretty reasonable bar to draw. You talk about the top 5th of the league, if you're just looking at it by sheer numbers. Now, obviously, there are a number of programs who are Division I programs, i.e. the entire MAC conference, who you would look at and say, I don't really care if they make the playoffs or not. So it's not 24 of everybody who's in Division I FBS. It's 24 of the relevant 50 or 60 programs, with, for sure, you're going to get a couple group of 5 independent programs that are going to make the playoff every year in a 24-team field. But I think overall, while it doesn't demean the regular season that much, you are taking the best teams and making the last month of the regular season less important. This proposal is going to remove conference championships, which, while fun, I think certainly carried a very weird relevance. In some cases, teams were worse off going to conference championship games. So I can understand college football wanting to remove them, even if it does seem like a very clean way to determine who won the conference in the regular season. Again, we have that in college basketball, and it works out just fine. So you would think, in theory, it should work that way in football, but really in practice, it hasn't been exactly the cleanest or most efficient way to determine who belongs in the championship field. It does finish off the regular season for the ACC, Big Ten, SEC very neatly, but in terms of providing a playoff field, it's not the best thing. So I can understand college football wanting to go away from it. I think the biggest problem with a 24-team field is the idea that you're going to get like 8-4 Iowa in a playoff. Iowa's a good team, great defense. By the time we got to the end of last year, I didn't need to know if Iowa had a chance to win a championship. And I know last year we had, JMU and Tulane in the championship anyway, and they were similar things. So it's not like the current format is excluding those teams 100%. but you would add more of those teams with a 24-team field. So I think that the main thing with the 24-team field in football, even if, yeah, the regular season would be hurt, but not that much. Yeah, it's big, but it's not too big for FCS, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, it might replace some bowl games that I don't really need to have in my life. I also don't need to see Team 17 against Team 24 to make it to the next round of the playoff, where they will very likely at some point be eradicated. Now, look, they go 24 and the 21 seed makes it to a championship game, then I might be buying in more. But as we sit here today, I just don't think it's very much necessary to go 24. So college sports, what can I say? I mean, there's money out there to be made. Obviously, athletes are doing a much better job getting some of that for themselves. Maybe this is the natural continuation of where college sports is at. That when you have the athletes not getting paid just in scholarships, getting paid real money, college football, in order to continue to support those giant coach and athletic director and conference commissioner contracts, have to go out and find more money. The easiest way to make more money is to play more games, and especially more games in the tournament. So perhaps this is just all we got in terms of the future of college sports. All right, we're done for today. Thanks very much for listening. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again with you on Monday. Enjoy your Mother's Day weekend. Thanks to all the moms out there for all the hard work they do every single day, including my mom, Mary Lou, and my wife, Tracy. Great, great moms. We appreciate all their help and all their efforts. Thanks for watching again today. My name is Thad Brown. This is Rochester First. The news on News 8 is right after this.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.